After 22 years of marriage, my wife said she was done with me over morning coffee. So I walked out silently, but she never saw what was coming next. When I returned from my father's metals, I discovered a strange car in my driveway, a forged signature on loan documents, and $175,000 missing. But the real shock came when my daughter texted, "Dad, I don't like how Mom's friend looks at me." That's when I knew this wasn't just about cheating. It was about survival. My name is Adrian Harmon. I'm 47 years old, and after 22 years of marriage, my wife decided our life together wasn't worth saving, with about as much emotion as someone canceling a magazine subscription. It happened on a Tuesday evening. I remember because Tuesdays were always the day I'd come home later than usual after filing hazardous material reports. As a hazmat specialist, I deal with the stuff nobody wants to touch: chemical spills, industrial accidents, sometimes even meth lab cleanups for the police department. I've neutralized threats that could level city blocks, but nothing prepared me for the toxicity that had been building in my own home. Brenda was sitting at our kitchen island, scrolling through her phone when I walked in. She didn't look up. She just said, "I'm done, Adrian. I've been done for a while now." The microwave clock read 7:43 p.m. The dishwasher hummed in the background. Everything looked normal, except for the fact that my 2-decade marriage had just been pronounced dead with less ceremony than ordering takeout. "What does that mean exactly?" I asked, setting my lunchbox down on the counter. My voice came out steadier than I expected. She finally looked at me then, her expression almost bored. "It means I'm not happy. Haven't been for years. I think we both know that." I stood there, still in my work boots, processing her words like I would assess a hazardous situation, methodically, carefully, looking for the source of the threat. But unlike at work, I had no protocol to follow here. "Is there someone else?" I asked, though I already knew the answer. You don't spend decades defusing dangerous situations without developing a sixth sense for when something's about to explode. She didn't confirm or deny, just shrugged and said, "Does it matter? We've been living separate lives for years, Adrian. You're married to your job." That night, I didn't argue. I didn't shout. I just nodded, walked upstairs, and packed a bag. I had protocols for evacuations at work. Why not home? By 5 a.m. the next morning, I was gone. I left a note on the counter, taking some time. "We'll be in touch about next steps." Brenda said she was done with our marriage. So I walked out silently, and she never saw coming what would happen next. Because while she thought she was ending our story, she had no idea she was actually setting up the most explosive chapter of all. I spent that first week after walking out in a motel off Highway 16, the kind of place where the ice machine always seems to be broken and the comforter has seen better days. The room smelled faintly of bleach and air freshener, since I'd become desensitized to from years of hazardous cleanup work. I'd taken emergency leave from work, claiming a family crisis. Technically, I wasn't lying. It was day 9 when I realized I'd left my father's service medals in the locked drawer of my home office desk. Those medals meant everything to me. Tangible reminders of a man who'd taught me that integrity and courage weren't just words you threw around. I needed them now more than ever. I drove back to the house on a Thursday afternoon, timing it for when Brenda would be at her administrative job at the community college. As I turned onto our street, or what used to be our street, my stomach tightened. A sleek black BMW was parked in our driveway. Not a visitor's car. It was parked like it belonged there. I pulled over 3 houses down and watched. The garage door was closed, curtains drawn. This wasn't a casual visit. Whoever owned that car was comfortable inside my home. I sat there for nearly an hour, contemplating my next move. The hazmat specialist in me wanted to follow protocol, assess the situation, identify the threat, plan the containment. But the husband in me just wanted to know the truth, no matter how toxic. At 3:42 p.m., the front door opened. A man stepped out, tall, athletic build, probably mid-30s. He was laughing, talking over his shoulder to someone still inside. That's when Brenda appeared, wearing a dress I'd never seen before. She reached up, pulled him down for a kiss that went on long enough to make it clear this wasn't new. When they broke apart, she playfully pushed him toward his car. "Same time tomorrow?" he asked, his voice carrying across the quiet afternoon. "Maybe earlier," Brenda replied with a laugh I hadn't heard in years. "I miss you already, Aaron." Aaron. Now the faceless threat had a name. I sank lower in my seat as he drove past, the BMW's engine purring softly. Once he was gone, I waited 5 more minutes, then drove up to my own house and parked in the driveway. My key still worked in the front door. Small mercies. I stepped inside, the familiar smell of home hitting me like a physical force. Brenda was upstairs. I could hear the shower running. Good. I moved quietly to my office, unlocked the desk drawer, and retrieved the small wooden box containing my father's medals. As I turned to leave, something caught my eye, an unfamiliar folder on my desk labeled Refinance Documents. Curious, I flipped it open. My blood ran cold. Loan papers for a second mortgage on our house. $175,000, with what appeared to be my signature on the dotted line. Except I'd never signed any refinance papers. The signature was close, but not mine. The A was too rounded, the H too slanted. The shower upstairs stopped. I quickly took photos of the documents with my phone, then slipped out the front door, medals in hand. Back in my car, hands shaking with a mix of anger and disbelief, I examined the photos more closely. The notary stamp, the dates, the loan details, all of it looking official, except for the forged signature. She hadn't just replaced me emotionally. She'd stolen my identity. The question was why. And more importantly, who was this Aaron? And what did he have to do with $175,000 of new debt in my name? I drove straight to my best friend Derek's house. I needed a place to think, to plan. Because if there's one thing handling hazardous materials teaches you, it's that you never rush into contaminated territory without the right equipment and a solid extraction plan. Derek's basement became my war room. A former Navy SEAL turned construction foreman. He didn't ask questions when I showed up with a folder of documents and a haunted look. He just handed me a beer and cleared space on his pool table. She forged my signature. I explained, spreading out the photos of the refinance documents. Took out $175,000 against our house. Derek whistled low. You call the cops yet? Not yet. I rubbed my face. Need to understand what I'm dealing with first. My phone buzzed. A text from my daughter Haley. Dad, when are you coming home? Things are weird here. I hadn't told her the full story yet. At 16, she was perceptive but still innocent in ways I wanted to protect. Another text came through. Mom's friend is here again. Don't like the way he looks at me. My blood turned to ice. I need to get my daughter, I told Derek, already heading for the door. Hold up, Derek grabbed my arm. You store in there half-cocked. You'll lose any advantage you have. Think like it's a hazmat scene. You need containment first. He was right. I took a breath, then called Haley instead. Dad. Her voice sounded small. Can you pick me up from Jenna's later? I don't want to come home tonight. What's going on, sweetheart? I kept my voice steady. Mom's friend Aaron keeps asking weird questions about you, she said quietly. About your work schedule, your access codes for the bank. And yesterday, I heard him tell Mom they need to accelerate the timeline because you might catch on. What does that mean? My mind raced. It means I'm picking you up right now. Pack a bag with essentials. An hour later, Haley was safe at Derek's, her eyes red from crying after I'd explained some, not all, of what was happening. That night, after she fell asleep in Derek's spare room, I received a call from a number I didn't recognize. Harmon. I answered curtly. Adrian. A smooth male voice replied. Aaron Harding here. I think we should talk. About what? My knuckles turned white around the phone. About your hasty departure and your daughter's equally hasty exit tonight. Brenda's quite upset. Brenda's upset? I nearly laughed. Tell me, Aaron, is she upset about the affair or the forged loan documents? Silence stretched for 3 beats. I see, he finally said. Well, that complicates things, but not irreparably. Perhaps we should meet, man to man. Tomorrow, Riverview Cafe noon. I agreed, though every instinct screamed against it. After hanging up, I called my bank and froze all accounts. Then I contacted a lawyer Derek recommended, Samantha Reeves, a specialist in financial fraud and divorce. Because while Aaron thought he was setting a trap, he had no idea he was walking straight into a containment zone of my creation. And I've never failed to neutralize a threat once properly identified. Riverview Cafe sat on the banks of the Merrimack River, its patio offering pristine views and enough public witnesses to discourage anything too dramatic. I arrived 30 minutes early, chose a corner table with my back to the wall, and ordered black coffee. Samantha Reeves had been clear. Gather information. Make no promises. Record everything. The small device in my pocket was already running. Aaron arrived right on time, looking like he'd stepped out of a luxury car commercial. Tailored blazer, designer watch, confidence that bordered on arrogance. He spotted me immediately and approached with an extended hand. Adrian, good to finally meet you. His smile didn't reach his eyes. I didn't shake his hand. Sit down, Aaron. Let's not pretend we're friends. He sat, ordering an espresso from the hovering waitress. Fair enough. Straight to business then. I know you've discovered the refinancing. An unfortunate necessity. Necessity, I repeated, keeping my voice controlled. Forging my signature is a necessity. Aaron leaned forward. Look, Brenda and I, we have plans. Big plans. The kind that require capital. She told me your marriage was effectively over years ago. And that justifies fraud? I asked, taking a sip of coffee to hide my disgust. I prefer to call it creative financing. He had the audacity to smile. Here's the deal. We still need your signature. Your real one this time. On some transfer papers. In exchange, we're prepared to offer you 10% of the loan amount. I stared at him. You're bribing me to sign away my house. I'm offering you a clean break, he corrected. And some walking money. Frankly, more than you deserve, considering how you neglected Brenda. A flash of anger threatened to break my composure. I thought of Haley's text message about this man looking at her strangely. About the years I'd worked dangerous jobs to provide stability. Tell me, Aaron, I said quietly, does your plan include my daughter too? Because she mentioned you asking about my banking information, about accelerating timelines. His expression flickered. Surprise, then calculation. Kids exaggerate. But speaking of Haley, Brenda's quite distraught you took her. Courts don't look kindly on that. Courts also don't look kindly on identity theft, I countered, or on men who make teenage girls uncomfortable in their own homes. Aaron's smile vanished. Careful with accusations, Harmon. Things could get unpleasant. They already are. I stood up, towering over him. Tell Brenda I'll see her in court. And Aaron, stay away from my daughter. I walked away, his angry muttering fading behind me. In my car, I stopped the recording and took a deep breath. The confrontation had confirmed my suspicions. This wasn't just about Brenda leaving me. This was something more calculating, more dangerous. As I started the engine, my phone buzzed with a text from a number I didn't recognize. You handled that well. Coffee sometime. Samantha. For the first time in weeks, I felt something other than anger or pain. A small spark of possibility in the ashes of what used to be my life. Samantha Reeves was nothing like I expected. In my line of work, lawyers were typically stern men in conservative suits who spoke in calculated sentences. Samantha was direct, sharp-witted, and refreshingly blunt. Your wife didn't act alone, she said, reviewing the recording from my meeting with Aaron. We sat in her downtown office, surrounded by awards for financial fraud litigation. This guy's done this before. How can you tell? I asked, watching her methodically organize documents. The language he used. Too polished, too practiced. She tapped her pen against the desk. The creative financing line is a dead giveaway. That's con artist terminology. I leaned forward. So what's our next move? First, we file for an emergency freeze on all your joint assets. She reached for her computer. Then we subpoena the loan records. If he's using this money for anything other than home improvements, which is what the loan application claims, we've got them for fraud. As she typed, my phone buzzed with a call from Haley. Dad. Her voice was tight with panic. Mom just showed up at school. She's furious you kidnapped me. The principal called me to the office. My grip tightened around the phone. Don't go with her. I'm coming right now. I explained the situation to Samantha as I grabbed my jacket. This complicates things, she said, already gathering her purse. I'm coming with you. Custody battles get ugly fast. 20 minutes later, we walked into Lincoln High's administrative office. Brenda stood by the principal's desk, her face a mask of maternal concern that didn't reach her eyes. When she saw me, that mask slipped for just an instant. Adrian, she greeted coldly, then noticed Samantha. Who's this? My attorney. I replied evenly. Where's Haley? The principal, a balding man who looked desperate to be anywhere else, gestured to his inner office. She asked to wait in there when her mother arrived. Brenda stepped toward me. You had no right to take her. I'm still her mother. And I'm still her father. I countered, keeping my voice steady. The father whose signature you forged to take out a fraudulent loan. The principal's eyebrows shot up. Brenda's composure cracked further. That's ridiculous, she hissed. Tell him, Mr. Abernathy, how Adrian works with dangerous chemicals. How his job exposes him to toxic substances that affect his thinking. That was low, even for her. Using my profession, one I'd chosen to protect people, against me. Samantha stepped forward. Mrs. Harmon, I'd advise against making defamatory statements, especially when we have documented evidence of financial fraud. Brenda's face paled. Before she could respond, Haley emerged from the office, her expression resolute. I want to stay with Dad, she announced firmly, coming to stand beside me. Mom, I know what you and Aaron are doing. I heard you both talking about the money, about Dad's signature. In that moment, my 16-year-old daughter showed more courage than I'd given her credit for. Brenda looked from Haley to me, calculation replacing anger in her eyes. This isn't over, she said finally, grabbing her purse. Aaron was right about you. You've always been an obstacle. After she stormed out, Samantha helped me file temporary custody papers right from her phone. As we left with Haley, my daughter squeezed my hand. Dad, she whispered, there's something else you should know. I took photos of papers on Mom's desk. Aaron's real name isn't Harding. William Aaron Dunn. Samantha read from her laptop screen. 3 fraud investigations in 2 states. No convictions, but multiple restraining orders. We sat in a private room at the back of Westview Diner, papers spread across the table while Haley nursed a chocolate milkshake. The photos she'd taken revealed not just Aaron's true identity, but a pattern of behavior spanning years. He targets families where one spouse works in high-risk professions, Samantha continued. Firefighters, police officers, military, and apparently hazmat specialists. But why? I asked. Insurance policies, she explained. Your profession means you likely have substantial life and disability coverage. Combined with home equity and retirement accounts, you're the perfect mark. The implication hit me like a chemical spill, sudden, dangerous, requiring immediate response. You think they were setting me up for more than just loan fraud? I said slowly. Samantha nodded grimly. In previous cases, the husbands experienced accidents after the funds were secured. Nothing definitively tied to Dunn, but suspicious timing. Haley paled, setting down her milkshake. Dad, last week Aaron asked Mom if your work involved handling caustic substances. He said something about how easy it would be for accidents to happen with that stuff. My blood ran cold. I'd spent my career preventing dangerous materials from harming innocent people, and now my own family had invited this toxicity into our lives. We need to go to the police, I decided. With what we have now, they'll investigate, but it might not be enough for immediate action, Samantha cautioned. We need something concrete tying him directly to the fraud. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. We need to talk. Things have gotten out of hand. Meet me at Lakeside Park, 7 p.m. Come alone. Brenda. I showed Samantha the message. She frowned. It's too risky. But it's an opportunity, I countered. If I can get her to admit what they're planning. While wearing a wire, Samantha finished my thought. And with backup nearby, I turned to Haley, who watched us with worried eyes. Sweetheart, I need you to stay with Derek tonight. Dad, I'm scared, she admitted, suddenly looking younger than her 16 years. I squeezed her hand. I've contained hazardous situations my entire career. This is just another toxic threat to neutralize. But as I prepared for the meeting, I couldn't ignore the bitter irony. I'd spent decades protecting strangers from dangerous chemicals, never suspecting the most lethal threat would come from within my own home. Lakeside Park was nearly deserted as dusk fell. I parked near the boathouse, away from the few other cars scattered throughout the lot. The wire under my shirt felt foreign, but Samantha had assured me the recording quality was excellent. Testing, I muttered, adjusting my jacket. Loud and clear, Samantha's voice confirmed through my earpiece. Derek and I are positioned at the north entrance. Remember the code word if you feel threatened. Containment, I repeated. Our agreed signal if things went south. I spotted Brenda, sitting alone on a bench, overlooking the water. No sign of Aaron, or William, as we now knew him. I approached cautiously, scanning the surroundings with the same alertness I'd use at a chemical spill site. Adrian. Brenda stood as I neared. She looked tired, the confident facade cracked. "Thank you for coming. Where's your partner?" I asked, remaining standing, maintaining distance. "Aaron doesn't know I'm here." She glanced nervously over her shoulder. "Things have gotten complicated." "Complicated?" I repeated flatly. "Is that what we're calling identity theft and fraud now?" Her eyes flashed with momentary anger before dimming to something like resignation. "You don't understand. I was unhappy for so long. Aaron offered a way out, a fresh start, by stealing our money and destroying our family." "It wasn't supposed to go this far," she whispered. "The initial plan was just to secure my future. But then he started talking about your life insurance policy, about how dangerous your job is." My blood ran cold. "So you were planning my accident next?" Tears welled in her eyes. "Not me. Never me. But Aaron. He changed. Started making comments about your equipment, asking if hazardous materials could cause untraceable health issues. And that didn't concern you." I struggled to keep my voice level. "It terrified me," she admitted. "That's why I'm here. Last night, I found research on his laptop, articles about toxic exposure symptoms, about how to make accidents look natural. I processed this information, careful to keep her talking." "Why tell me now?" "Because he's planning something soon. He told me to make sure Haley was at a friend's house tomorrow night. Said it would be better if she wasn't home for the incident." My protective instincts surged. "I need evidence, Brenda. Something concrete I can take to the police." She hesitated, then reached into her purse and pulled out a flash drive. "His entire operation is on here. Previous victims, financial records, everything." I copied it while he was showering. As I reached for it, movement caught my eye, a tall figure emerging from the trees behind Brenda. The last rays of sunlight glinted off something in his hand. "Containment," I said sharply, already moving toward Brenda. "Get down." I lunged forward, tackling Brenda to the ground as a shot cracked through the evening air. Pain exploded in my shoulder, hot and immediate. "Traitor!" Aaron, or William, shouted, advancing toward us, gun raised. I knew you couldn't be trusted. Blood seeped through my jacket, but adrenaline kept me focused. I pushed Brenda under the bench, positioning myself between her and the gunman. "It's over, William," I called out, using his real name deliberately. "The police know everything. You're surrounded." He hesitated, eyes darting around the park. "You're bluffing." "Am I?" I challenged. "Your real identity is exposed. Your storage unit's been searched. Your whole operation is compromised." I was gambling, hoping to rattle him enough to buy time. Through my earpiece, I could hear Samantha urgently relaying our location to the police. William's face contorted with rage. "You think you've won? I've been doing this for years. Arrogant husbands like you, thinking your families could never betray you. Drop the weapon." Derek's voice boomed from behind a nearby tree line. He emerged slowly, his construction worker's frame imposing even without a weapon. Samantha circled from the other direction, phone visibly recording. William swung the gun toward Derek, giving me the opening I needed. I launched myself forward, ignoring the searing pain in my shoulder, and slammed into him with all my remaining strength. We crashed to the ground, the gun skittering away across the pavement. "You've been neutralized," I growled, pinning him despite my injury. "Just like every other toxic threat I've handled." Police sirens wailed in the distance, drawing closer. William struggled beneath me, his face twisted with hatred. "She was supposed to be mine," he spat. "We had plans. Plans that included murdering my client." Samantha asked coldly, still recording. "Accidents happen," he sneered, "especially in high-risk professions." Behind us, Brenda slowly emerged from under the bench, her face ashen. "I never agreed to that," she whispered. "Never." As police cars flooded the parking lot, I felt a strange sense of completion, like sealing off a contamination zone. My marriage was over, but the threat had been contained. The danger to my daughter neutralized. Later, in the hospital, as doctors removed the bullet from my shoulder, Samantha waited in the corridor. Haley sat beside her, both of them speaking quietly. "Your daughter's been telling me about your work," Samantha said when I emerged, arm in a sling. "About how you save people from invisible dangers. Seems like you brought that skill home tonight." Haley hugged me carefully, mindful of my injury. "Dad, I was so scared when they called." I held her close with my good arm. "The best protection specialists know when to call for backup." I told her. Samantha smiled, something soft breaking through her professional demeanor. Speaking of backup, someone needs to drive you to home. My car's outside. In that moment, amid the hospital's antiseptic smell and fluorescent lights, I glimpsed a possibility I hadn't considered before, a future built not on the ruins of betrayal, but on the foundation of truth and trust. 3 months after the lakeside confrontation, I sat in Judge Meyer's courtroom watching William Aaron Dunn receive a sentence. 20 years for attempted murder, fraud, identity theft, and conspiracy. His legal team had tried to negotiate a plea deal, but the evidence proved overwhelming, especially once 2 of his previous victims came forward after seeing his arrest on the news. Brenda received a more lenient sentence, 18 months with possibility of parole, plus restitution. The prosecution had considered her a cooperative witness after she turned over the flash drive containing William's detailed records. Part of me still struggled with her betrayal, but I'd come to accept that revenge wouldn't heal what had been broken. "You okay?" Samantha whispered beside me, her hand resting lightly on my good arm. My shoulder had mostly healed, though physical therapy would continue for another month. "Better than I expected," I answered honestly. After the sentencing, we stepped out into the October sunshine. Haley waited on the courthouse steps, textbooks spread around her. She'd insisted on coming to the sentencing, but had geometry homework to finish. "It's over?" she asked, looking up as we approached. "It's over," I confirmed, sitting beside her. "William's going away for a long time." She nodded solemnly. "And Mom, she made her choices," I said carefully. "But she'd try to warn me in the end. That counts for something." Haley leaned against my shoulder, my good one, with a sigh that sounded older than her 16 years. "I keep thinking about how close we came to losing you. Hazmat specialists are hard to eliminate," I joked gently. "We know too much about containment." Samantha joined us, her professional demeanor softening as it often did around Haley. Over the past months, she'd become more than our attorney, a friend, a confidant, and lately, something more. "Your dad's house paperwork is officially clear," she told Haley. "The loan has been invalidated, and the title is fully in his name now." "Our house," I corrected, meeting Haley's eyes. "Our home." Later that evening, after Samantha had gone home and Haley was upstairs finishing homework, I sat in the backyard watching the sunset. The world felt different now, more fragile in some ways, more solid in others. My marriage was over, but something unexpected had emerged from its ashes: clarity, resilience, and the knowledge that the most important bonds in my life had survived the ultimate test. I'd spent my career containing dangerous substances, preventing them from causing harm. Now I understood that emotional toxins required the same vigilant approach: identification, containment, and careful rehabilitation of damaged areas. The cleanup wasn't complete, but the site was finally secured. Tomorrow, Samantha was coming over for dinner. The 3 of us building something new. Not replacing what was lost, but creating something honest from the ground up. 1 year after walking out of my home that Tuesday morning, I stood in that same kitchen, surrounded by friends celebrating Haley's 17th birthday. Derek and his wife had brought a homemade cake. My brother flew in from Arizona. Even my hazmat team colleagues showed up with inappropriate chemical-themed gifts that made Haley roll her eyes and laugh. "Blow out the candles," I urged as Haley hesitated, eyes closed in contemplation of her wish. She took a deep breath and extinguished all 17 flames in one determined effort. Everyone cheered. "What did you wish for?" Samantha asked, her arm comfortably linked with mine. "Can't tell you," Haley replied with a grin. "But I think it's already coming true." Later, as guests filtered out, Haley pulled me aside to the quiet of the back porch. "I've been thinking," she said, suddenly serious, "about visiting Mom when she gets out next month." I nodded, having anticipated this conversation. "If that's what you want, I'll support you. Will you come with me? Just the first time." Her voice held the rare vulnerability she seldom showed anymore. "Absolutely," I promised, giving her shoulder a gentle squeeze. After she went upstairs, Samantha helped me clean up, working in companionable silence until she paused, leaning against the counter. "I have something for you," she said, pulling a small envelope from her purse. "It's official as of this morning. Inside was a certified letter confirming the final restoration of my credit score, the last lingering effect of Brenda and William's actions fully remediated. Clean bill of financial health, Samantha smiled. You're officially decontaminated. I set the letter aside and took her hands in mine. Thank you. Not just for this, but for everything. Just doing my job, she teased, though we both knew it had become much more than that months ago. Move in with us, I said suddenly, the word surprising even me. You're here most nights anyway. Haley adores you. And I paused, finding the right words. I'm ready to build something new. Samantha's eyes widened, then softened. Are you sure? I've spent my life identifying hazards, I told her. You're the opposite of that. You're safety, stability, home. That night, as I lay awake with Samantha sleeping beside me, I reflected on the strange journey of the past year. My wife had said she was done with our marriage, and I had walked away quietly. Neither of us could have imagined the explosion that would follow, or that from those ashes would rise a stronger, truer version of the life I was meant to live. Some dangerous materials, once neutralized, become foundations for new structures, stronger and more resilient than what stood before. As it turned out, betrayal had been the most toxic substance I'd ever handled, and its successful containment, my finest professional achievement.